Welcome to Okay But Listen,
a review podcast.
I'm Juliana.
I'm Kaitlyn.
And this week we watched Gentlemen Broncos.
And we say we watched as if we've never seen it before. We've seen this movie so many fucking times.
Yeah, yes.
We actually watched the movie together twice.
Well,
in two different ways. We watched it first with the commentary track, and then we watched it again like an hour ago.
Yeah, we gotta hear all the lines.
We watched it together.
We did watch this movie together because we had seen it so often. Mm-hmm. I will say that.
Yeah. This is one of those, if somebody told me in order to save my life I had to perform a movie from memory all the way through, I think this is the movie I could do.
I could see that.
Well, you saw me being annoying the whole movie. I can say all of the lines through the whole movie. You
got it down to the soundtrack, too.
Yeah.
Which was pretty great.
I don't have a good Chevalier impression, though. That's
What's your Chevalier impression?
Chevalier.
Ronald Chevalier.
Dr. Ronald Chevalier. So the plot.
The plot, I guess, is on me.
Yeah?
Technically, it's a group pick. The G's were kind of a group pick, so...
Yeah. They were a gimme. G for gimme.
Yeah, we both are passionate about both these movies. But the plot for Gentlemen Broncos, it follows Benji boy. Basically, he has written a novel and takes it to this writing camp, and then Dr. Ronald Chevalier needs a book really bad to give to his publishers and ends up stealing this book, and it's kind of just the plagiarism that ensues, and also all of Benji's friends being absolute assholes to him.
Friends is a generous term.
It's kind of the weirdness of homeschool.
Yeah.
If you ask the people who wrote the movie, Jerusha and Jared Hess, they tell you that this movie is about a kid who writes novels that makes his mom cry.
It's true. That's one of his things. He said, I let my mom read a few of them, but they just made her cry.
Yeah. Well, so... I mean, we'll talk about it more, but we both know so much about this movie, I think we're going to just jump right into fun facts. Mm-hmm. One of the fun facts about that, which I think you picked up on when we watched the commentary, but Jerusha's cousin who lives in Alaska, her, youngest cousin, or he's a nephew or something, he writes these really graphic science fiction novels that make his mother cry because they're so graphic and she's concerned about him. And Jerusha and Jared thought it'd be really funny to take that idea and kind of run with it. And that kid is in one of the scenes. He's in he's at Cletus Fest.
Okay.
He's at the writing camp. In the background, he's wearing all black in the how to name a character scene. He's back there, and he's from Alaska. He goes to writing camps. He writes stories that makes his mom cry. I think it's fantastic.
Have you ever been to a writing camp?
No.
Okay, I have.
Oh.
At Community College of Denver, I was I went to one when I was 13, and then I went to a different one. They were at the community college, and they were a week-long thing in the summer. You go for 5 hours a day. You write, you learn about writing. 5 hours might be an exaggeration, but you're there for a couple hours, for 5 days in a row.
Was it all just fanfic?
Oh, it was worse. It was my original fiction, but it was very much 13-year-old Kaitlyn original fiction, where it was he's a dangerous, part demon, part something, and he's the bad boy, and the girl who's all the powers, and the chosen one is in love with him, and blah blah blah. And it was okay, so 13-year-old Kaitlyn is Tina Belcher. Where it's just the very weird fiction that's all has the undercurrent of weird horny.
Yeah.
That was the film Jupiter Ascending was written by 13-year-old Kaitlyn. That's the vibe. And so I think that's why I like Gentlemen Broncos so much, is Benji is that kid where he's weird and he's kind of shy, and he writes these sprawling worlds and these in-depth, you can tell that there's so much lore behind everything.
Yeah.
And I love it. One of the things about this movie that makes it stand out is you get 3 different versions of the story that he's written. like, his version and Chevalier's version features Sam Rockwell as Bronco.
Love it.
And you get Benjamin's version with Bronco as, like, the game warden inspired by his dad. Then you get Chevalier's where Bronco is, like, his name is Brutus. And he's, like, swishy and, like, wearing pink.
He's got the loose wrist.
Limp wristed, like, mincing around. And then you get the movie that Donnie makes.
Yeah.
Up at the top, I love this movie because it speaks to me as a kid. Like, I was that kid who wrote these books and stuff. But it's also, like, I really love this movie. And then Jared Hess did Napoleon Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
And they just feel like little snippets. They feel like scrapbook movies almost, where it's like a very specific, like, this is a family, this is a moment. Like,
yeah,
they feel like real people.
Yeah, they feel like real people, because he very blatantly talks about how his characters are based off of real people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even with just watching the commentary, you know, he's like, I saw this interaction once, and I extrapolated from that. Or,
yeah.
like, he just very much is, I think him and Jerusha do this thing where they are really observing the world and taking ideas that they get and running with it.
Yeah.
They have that, because a lot of what they put in their movies is, like, what they see.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to talk about this movie without talking about Napoleon Dynamite and the Hess's backlog.
Yeah.
Because they came out with Napoleon Dynamite, then they came out with Nacho Libre, and then they came out with this.
Yeah.
So
it's so funny, too, because I think you mentioned before that, like, they're Mormon, right?
I've never heard them say they're Mormon.
Okay.
But the guy who plays Napoleon in Napoleon Dynamite,
Mm-hmm.
John Hader,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he's Mormon, and he met them at Brigham Young University.
Oh, wow.
And they refused to move from Utah.
Okay.
So I think they're Mormon.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things pointing to that, and one of the things that John Hader talks about in this interview he did on the Pete Holmes show is how they created the character of Napoleon Dynamite, and they wanted to create a comedy that fit within the constraints of Mormonism, because Mormons can't watch things that are too entertaining. Like, that's a thing.
That's whack.
It has to, like, there's no cussing, so, like, if you notice in Napoleon Dynamite, I haven't watched it in a while, but I kind of remember picking up on it after a rewatch, and you see it, when I was looking for it, I definitely picked it up on Gentlemen Bronco. They don't say things like butt and pussy, they say things like buttocks.
Mm-hmm.
Or they, like...
My buttocks is numb.
They say the body part, which I think for an onlooker is very funny, where you're like, oh, that's shocking, that's not normally what you say. But for somebody who's Mormon...
he calls Lonnie a butthole.
Yeah, for a Mormon, that's like, oh, these are parts. It's not... Because you're allowed to list the part, you're not allowed to, like...
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird rules in Mormonism.
Yeah. It's hard to talk about this movie because it's kind of has weird vibes, but, like, you have to kind of give the bullet point because, like, it's hard to explain to people. So it's like this kid, he writes his stories, he goes to a writer's camp, his hero steals his stuff, and then it just spirals. Like, it goes to...
Well, his hero steals his stuff, his besties steal his stuff.
Yeah. And
then his mom tries to sell her art, and then her art is almost stolen, and then he fucking loses it.
He goes, what is the quote? He, like, doesn't finish that's my favorite, is the closest they get to cussing in this movie is he says that Bronco goes ape shit.
Yeah.
And even the subtitles, it's like SH dash dash dash.
Yep.
He goes ape shit. And Benji goes ape shit. I don't know, I have, like, so much to talk about with this movie. It stands out as, like, kind of like a love letter to this kind of kid, but also, like, there's so many sci-fi references. And when we watch the commentary, Jared Hess pointed out a lot of them too. But one of my favorites is the Cyclops design for, like, the bits of Bronco's story. It is the exact same Cyclops design as the movie Krull.
Yeah.
Which is a classic sci-fi. It's so good. I fucking love Krull.
I haven't seen that.
It's good. It's one of those where it's like, the script is so funny to me because it feels like it was just like a cool fantasy story.
Krull.
Yeah, Krull. Okay. It feels like it was like sort of a cool script for like a fantasy story, But then, like, because Star Wars was doing so well and, like, A New Hope had come out kind of around there, that they were like, put some space shit in here. It's crazy. It's very good. And there's, like, references to it in, like, other stuff, too. Like, the glaive, or I can't remember the name of the weapon, but, like, you've seen it. You would know it if you saw it.
Sure. Yeah.
But
I trust you.
There's just, like, it just feels...
Well, there's also
made for like the people who are into this stuff, and it feels made for like people who can relate to Benji.
Yeah, and there's like Trekkie references too, which is fun.
I have big thinky thoughts about this movie. I've told you before, I could not find it. I went through like all of my files and stuff, but I wrote a paper about this movie, about Gentlemen Broncos, and it's one that I was really proud of. I actually wrote, it's about the portrayal of masculinity in Gentlemen Broncos, because you have the character of Bronco. You have like 3 different versions.
And Bronco is meant to be like the masculine dude in the story.
Yeah, and you see the influences.
The protagonist.
Yeah, he's the protagonist. Like the whole story revolves around him. The bits of the story that we see revolve around him getting his like gonads stolen, and like his fight to kind of fight against like the bastardization of his lineage. Like his whole thing is the bad guy is using his seed to create clones, and he doesn't want that, and like but like, because Benjamin, the true Bronco, is based on Benjamin's dad, who died when he was young, who was a game warden, and you see like Benjamin kind of builds his identity as a man around him, because he wears his dad's clothes. He has all of his dad's stuff. He has his dad's like portrait in his room. Bronco looks like his dad. And so you see this as like the true Bronco, and then you have Brutus, who is like
so feminine.
It's so funny because like the word, it's like not a great, he uses like tranny, but I do love Benjamin is like confronting Chevalier, and he's like, all you did was change the character names and turn Bronco into a tranny. And that is what he does. Like all of a sudden he's got like the platinum blonde hair and the pink flowy outfit and the limp wrists. And it's so interesting with that, because like you kind of see Chevalier's inner ideals of masculinity, and it's like so feminine, and you kind of see it in Chevalier too. Like he wears, like there was that jacket that we're convinced was like a woman's jacket that he was wearing. Yeah. He has his jewelry, his hair is very like precisely like put. Yeah, Jermaine Clement looks so good in this movie. That scene where he's like riding and he's got his hair is like huge because it was 6 months later and it had grown out, but like you kind of see that. And then with Lonnie is gay.
Oh, yeah.
Like, absolutely. And so, like, his Bronco is, like, very much, because he does, like, romance novels and, like, romance movies. And so he picks Dusty, who kind of looks like a Fabio-ish, like an anorexic Fabio.
He just has long blonde hair.
Well, and then the way he puts him, he has, like, the Scottish accent in the movie. And so it's very much, like, bodice ripper vibes, where it's like the strong Scottish Irish like hero,
accented man,
strong
European accented man.
I'd do anything for you. And so that's like my big brainworm about this movie, is just like there's so much that you can pull from it, and so much that you can see about each character through looking at the different versions of like what is essentially the same character.
Yeah.
And that's me being a film major, and that's me being like themes.
I like it quite a bit in the way that I like movies where somebody reads a book and you see their interpretation of it, because then it's just fun to get inside somebody's head in that way.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see this with 3 characters. It's a really fun movie.
It has so many good, like, running gags through it. Like, the one that me and my dad fucking scream over every time, and it's the one everyone points out, is Chevalier, Jermaine Clement's character, has a Bluetooth speaker, or, like, a Bluetooth headset, the entire movie, he does not use it once. He talks on the phone many times throughout the movie, but he holds the phone up to his other ear to talk into it, and I'm obsessed with it.
You have to know he's a very busy man.
It's so funny.
He's a man in demand. No, I love that so much. I love how that character takes himself so seriously, but his like height of success is he has TV movies.
Yeah.
From his books. I also loved his speech about like, I'm concerned that my work isn't gonna, when Benji is like, hey, somebody took my work and they're making a film out of it and I hate the way that it looks, what do I do? And Dr. Chevalier's thing was like, oh, just take the money and run. And it's just like,
no, his speech
it's such a good speech. It's played for laughs, but it is like, oh, that's dark.
Because his speech, too, he's like, generations from now, do you think they'll remember us for our writing? No, it'll be how rich we are. And it's like, why do you think I wear this bracelet? With his big-ass turquoise jewelry.
Love it
But,
so much.
yeah, tell me your research, because I feel like I've been talking for 8 years.
There's a lot here. I don't know where we want to start. Actually, I'm going to start with one of my favorite facts. Mike White is in this film. Do you know about Mike White?
I know he's in films.
Okay.
Because he's in School of Rock.
He wrote School of Rock.
Fuck yeah, dude. That's my other favorite movie.
So he wrote School of Rock. He jumped on with Jared and Jerusha for Nacho Libre. And it's really cool. In an interview, Mike White talked about how he calls it partying on set with the Hesses because he said that's the vibe of set. It's not like you're just on set filming. He said, I didn't know filmmaking could be fun until I filmed with the Hesses.
Well, and you see that in a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff where, like, everyone's sitting off camera, like, laughing at the jokes and stuff.
Yeah. It's just, like, kind of fun because Mike White was like, yeah, I'm down to be with do anything with them ever, was kind of his attitude.
That's so
Which
cool.
is when they were like, hey, will you be on the front of the screen? He's like, sure, whatever. And then they showed him the wig and he was like, God, no. But he's a fun guy. He wrote School of Rock. He also wrote White Lotus.
I still have not seen that one.
My thing about White Lotus, everyone's like, it's so deep. It's about the ultra-rich who are staying at these, like, luxury hotels and then, like, the people who serve them. And I'm like, it's literally a slice of life. Like, that's what he's really good at, is just doing a slice of life. And we see rich people fucking up and being able to stay rich, and poor people fucking up and getting poorer. Like, I don't know what people think is so deep about this thing. It's not. It's just shot in beautiful locations.
Yeah.
But I think it feels kind of Hess-like in that regard of, like, it's, like, White Lotus is just watching people. Like, you feel like you're just watching a situation unfold. It's not like you're a character. It's not like you're involved. It feels a little different.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how I think a lot of the Hess, like Napoleon Dynamite, you're like a passive viewer of a person's life. This, you feel like a passive viewer. Except I get like more angry for Benji. I feel such a way for Benji in this movie.
Well, and I feel like as opposed to Napoleon Dynamite, this one has like more of a story arc. Like this one, because Napoleon Dynamite kind of feels like you're following this kid along the course of like the school year.
Well, so for Napoleon Dynamite, they had the characters, but not the story. And for Gentlemen Broncos, they had the story and not the characters.
Okay, yeah. You
and
can
so you
kind
can
of see.
feel the story play out. And then I think Jared kind of ended up making Benji a little bit of his own reflection.
Yeah.
But in an interview, Jermaine Clement said he also felt like there was a little bit of Jared in his character as well.
Oh, because Chevalier looks exactly like Jared Hess.
Exactly like Jared.
They have that shot where it's him, like the behind-the-scenes shot of them both sitting on the couch, and you're like, what?
You're like, wait, who is who here?
And you see, I like that Jared Hess is like, he knows exactly what he wants, it seems like. Because in the behind the scenes and like everything, you see he does the Chevalier voice. He does the voice, like the Lonnie voice. Like he knows exactly what he wants, and he will, like, I think there was a comment that we saw in one of them where like one of the actors was like, yeah, if Jared could just do the whole movie himself, I think he would.
So I listened to this interview with Jared Hess, and he talks about how he writes. So honestly, the way Jared and Jerusha write together for everything, they have 4 kids, I think. 2 are adopted, 2 are biological. And they wake up, they write for an hour, they take their kids to school, they come back, they write while their kids are in school, they go and they pick up their kids, and that's their day, and they do that day in, day out.
Wow.
To the point that, like, when asked who did what work, they're like, they cannot remember because it's so intermingled. But it's a cool way of seeing that. But one of the ways that Jared writes is he talks about writing in intonation. So a lot of it is he knows how he wants his characters to sound. And he's like, I know you're supposed to let actors do their thing and whatever. He's like, but I will line read.
Yeah.
Like, he will just stand there with the actor and just tell them, this is the intonation I want.
Okay.
And he'll give them the lines to be like, this is the kind of lilt. And honestly, the actors seem to appreciate it. At least the actors that are in this movie seem to like it.
Yeah.
Because I think it gives them a place to build from.
Yeah.
And all the actors that have worked with Jared and Jerusha have talked about how their screenwriting is so solid that they don't feel like they need to riff. Mm-hmm. But after, they will riff with them on set.
Yeah.
And sometimes those are the things that stick more.
Yeah.
Which is really cool to see.
I do like, because, Jared knows exactly what all of the characters want to say, but then, like, the actor who plays Lord Dacius just talks like that.
Yeah.
Like, he just sounds like that, and it's so funny because I had actually seen that guy before, because I really loved this show. It was, like, Antiques and Oddities or something. It was, like, some weird oddity shop in, like, LA, I think, and he was one of their regular customers who would come in and buy, like, taxidermy stuff and, like, antique, like, dentist equipment, and, like, he just sounds like that, and he's just that kind of weird guy, and I think it's so funny that, like, with Jared Hess knowing the intonations that he wanted, like, how did he find that guy?
So he knew he wanted that actor.
Okay.
And he knew he wanted, and, like, already had confirmed Sam. Mm-hmm. For when he was writing. So there's some...
Sam, we're on first name basis with Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell.
My good friend Sam.
But he will write, if he knows the actor, he'll kind of write in a tone that, like, he knows they voice. Can do. Yeah.
Okay.
So he writes with more of a vocal lilt than anything. Which I think is so interesting. So, like, he really knows... It's like, okay, this actor can do this kind of voice, and he'll run with that.
That's so cool, because, it's that thing where sometimes you get books that are written in the way the characters would speak, and I feel like, for me, it can be distracting.
Oh, yeah.
And so I feel like that really lends itself to film over, like, written stuff, because it directs the story, and, like, with the actors, it fits better.
Yeah.
I tried to read Cloud Atlas, and I could not do it.
Dude, I was the stage manager for Oklahoma in high school, and I don't know why. Maybe it was just our script or what, but it had the accents written in.
I hate that shit.
And it was, like, so miserable, and it was so miserable when after I wasn't there, because I'd have to, like... My little dyslexic ass was trying to have to read this, like, weirdly written English, and I was like, this is, a mess.
God.
I think it's true also, like, what we saw a lot on the behind-the-scenes stuff, and what a lot of actors have said about working with Jared is he knows exactly what shot he wants, and he's gonna, like, go for that shot.
Yeah.
And, like, I love when we were watching the behind-the-scenes, and they're like, we figured out how to do this thing with this camera, and both camera ops were like, well, I guess we're not working today. And you, like, see Jared in the background, like, playing with the camera.
Yeah, I did love that.
I want to go back to Sam Wright really quick. Or, sorry, Mike White really quick.
Mike White, yeah.
Because Mike White has also done a lot of other things. Mm-hmm. One of the things he is well known for is being on Survivor and on The Amazing Race.
Fuck yeah, dude.
He goes and he'll just be like, oh yeah, I work in Hollywood. He doesn't mention he wrote School of Rock. He doesn't mention, like, literally anything else. He, I think, was a writer on Freaks and Geeks. Like, has been in so much stuff. He helped write the Emoji Movie, Pitch Perfect, Despicable Me. Like,
That's
this
amazing.
guy is places. And he likes to do The Amazing Race. He's done it twice with his dad. It's like a thing that he and his dad do.
So funny.
I love it.
Live
your truth, man.
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. I could talk about all of these characters for 1,000 years. Tabitha. I need to talk about Tabitha. I have mixed feelings, but the mix would be like 80% negative, 20% positive, if that, like maybe 90-10.
Tabitha is pretty miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, like
she's not intentionally. She's not a mean girl. I feel like in a lot of movies you get a mean girl. Mm-hmm. Tabitha just wants to be a movie star and acts like she's a movie star in a town of 50 people, and so she comes off like an asshole. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I was coming at it, like, I definitely knew this kid. It was this kid, His mom was a librarian and his dad was a professor. So he was homeschooled, but he didn't have, like, a lot of supervision. And so he had, like, a complex where, like, because his parents were educated, he was, like, educated, but because he was homeschooled, he did not have any social understanding.
Yeah.
And I get that vibe from Tabitha because she talks about how she went to, was it Brussels?
Yeah.
Yeah, she, like, has been out of the country, and she, like, acts like she's a movie star, and it's very much like she's not doing it on purpose, but she does suck.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
I do love how much they hype up and love their movie industry, but the movies are so flippin' bad.
They're literally all trailers. They're shot on, like, the VHS camera.
Yeah.
I've known that kid too, Lonnie, where they're like, they hype it up where it's like, he has connections in the audiovisual industry, and it's like, how many movies have you made? He's made like 83, he's like 83, but most of them are trailers, and I'm like, then that's not 83 movies.
Yeah, that's 83 trailers.
And it's, but like, this is pre-YouTube.
Yeah.
So, like, what is he doing with all of these movies? I love it.
I love that it looks like they just do trailer shows at the movie theater in town, which is, like, so sweet.
I know. And then, like, yeah, Tabitha, just, you're introduced to her, like, when you first see her with her, like, face poking out of the, like, bus window watching Benji, like, get to the bus to, like, go to the writing fest. And she just has, like, a look on her face where, like, I feel like it's that vibe. And, like, I had it a little bit when I was, like, a sheltered kid where it's, like, there's a boy. And she needs to be in love with this boy. And she's going to be in love with this. Like, it's that thing where she makes him do, like, the hand massage. And she, like...
that scene is, like... It gives... Sorry, I know it's an audio... thing, but I literally skin crawls.
Yeah, Juliana's
I have a visceral
cringing.
reaction.
But she does that thing when she asks Benjamin for his money. She, like, does her weird little thing where she, like, kind of squeezes her boobs together and, like, looks down, and he's, like, looking at her boobs and is like, oh. And, like, with her weird little strut in her, like, onesie pajamas when she's in their hotel room.
In her mom jeans.
Yeah.
I love, like, all of her clothes are not flattering at all, but she wears them like they're the most flattering thing.
Yeah, because she's a movie star.
Yeah, she's gonna come from humble beginnings.
And I hadn't thought about it that way, but you, like, nailed it on the head, because especially, like, when she's, like, taking Benji on the date after like, when he walks out of the movie premiere of Yeast Lords. She kisses him after he throws up, and she puts the throw up in her mouth, and
she swallows his vomit. It's absolutely disgusting.
Even watching where the filmmakers were like, yeah, that's apple cinnamon flavored oatmeal he's got, and I'm like, no, it's so gross.
It's so gross.
Still so
it
gross.
Looks so legit and bad. I'm not about it.
She takes Benjamin on her little date, and she's acting like they're already in a relationship.
Yeah.
I think they've spent, like, maybe... Well, they've known each other for a couple months at this point.
Yeah, but it's mostly been, like, Benji is in the room and she's talking to Lonnie.
Yeah.
You know?
And she's just, like, holding his hand. And when he runs out of the bookstore, she's like, we can get through this. And it's a movie moment for her. And it very much is, like, this is a boy who is unattached to anyone. I need a boyfriend. This is my boyfriend now.
Yes. Well, I also thought when we were watching the commentary what Jerusha said about it, where she made a comment when they start their little date to the bookstore. She's like, this just shows, like, how Tabitha, when she wants something, she will just make it happen, even if it's absolutely delusional.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, she's 100% delusional. She's like, let's just get some Sudoku and cuddle up somewhere, as Benjamin is still covered in, like, vomit and, like, actively crying still. And then finding out that his hero has straight up stolen his work. This movie, I really do enjoy Benjamin's arc of learning the hard way not to meet your heroes. Because even from the beginning, before Chevalier even steals his work, he takes the class, the, like, seminar on names, and he gets so discouraged because he's like, he's kind of a jerk. And
you can see him lose interest.
Yeah, and so, like, by the end, that's why it's so satisfying by the end when Benji just goes full revenge plot and, like, goes and attacks him and, like, physically hits him with the bean pillow.
God, I love that bean pillow. It's so creepy.
Please, put the pillow down, I beg of you.
One of the things about that, too, is there's an interview with Jermaine Clement asking him how he felt about playing the villain character, because he never really plays the villain up in this point. He hasn't.
Yeah.
Later in life, I believe he does.
Oh, yeah.
But they're like, how do you play a jerk? And he was talking about, this was filmed between season 2 and what was maybe going to be season 3 of Flight of the Conchords.
Okay.
So this is peak Flight of the Conchords mania is happening.
Okay.
So there's a lot of interviews with Jermaine Clement. They tried to put him face forward for the press stuff because Flight of the Conchords had this big following that was happening. And he shuts down any conversation that happens when it comes to Flight of the Conchords stuff because, as we now know, there was discussion of if they were going to cancel or not.
Yeah.
The actors, they had been greenlit, but they weren't sure if they wanted to continue.
Okay.
But they mentioned it in the commentary or in some background thing that also during this time it was confirmed that his fiance was pregnant.
Okay.
And so he knew he had a kid coming.
Yeah.
The main thing he wanted to focus on Chevalier was the amount of pressure he was under. He wanted to really get that across because the thing about Flight of the Conchords is you have to fit 20 songs in 7 episodes.
Yeah.
And how hard that is. You have to write those songs and you have to make them somehow work. He's like, on top of having a kid, he's like, you take that pressure and you can kind of see why someone would try and find a way out as quickly and as easily as possible. And so that was the angle he took.
Okay.
But he said a lot of the times what he would do is he would read the script and try and, like, get in that mindset and go for walks, trying to, like, justify why he would act that way. And he's like, if it didn't work, I'd go on the same walk again. And I think it's interesting that a lot of his process is, like, walking and processing what he was doing. And another fun thing about the actors, I guess, because there's a bunch of it, for Jennifer Coolidge, who's also in this movie, who
she's so good.
The best movie mom.
The best. That's why we put her on our Mother's Day post, because Judith Purvis is the best mom on earth.
She's so supportive and lovely. I love her. So she said she showed up a week early for rehearsals, and Jared was like, oh, we're not doing rehearsals. Oh. He wants the first take to be on camera because he thinks it lends to the awkwardness, which is what he wants in the film.
Yeah,
you
kind of
see
love
that a lot, where like you get that awkward feeling, and a lot of time it's the first take, and it's the first time they've ever done it.
Yeah,
which I just kind of like.
Yeah, no,
I don't think it's really logistical, but for a movie like this, sure.
Yeah, any other movie that would not work, but for this, it definitely fits. I love Judith. She is such a good mom. Like, it's that thing where, like, you get that, like, they're not well off. You feel that, like, she's under a lot of pressure trying to keep things, like, running smoothly in the household. But she has dreams, and she wants to, like, get her art out there. And, like, just... I get so emotional that the scene where Benji's in jail after assaulting his ex-hero.
Most beautiful scene.
Yeah.
Beautiful scene.
She goes in and she still brings him his birthday present. She was so worried about being able to afford to give him a birthday in the first place, and she brings his birthday to him in jail. And, like, she makes that popcorn car and slams it against the bars.
I love all of her popcorn car creations.
Her popcorn creations. Funny. And then, like, she's ultimately the hero of the entire story because she's been registering all of his writing with the Writers League. And so he has the, like, copyright in there. That's how he can, like, prove that Chevalier stole his stuff. That's how he gets his book published himself. That's, like, the big break, this act of love that she's been doing. She says she's been registering all of his stories since he was, like, 7.
Yeah.
And it's just such a sweet thing that it was just, like, her recognizing his art, even though he said that, like, they make her cry and she doesn't really get his stories, but she knows that they're important to him, and so she just, like...
She does it.
She does it, and
she just does it so well.
She's so amazing.
I love it so much. Apparently, because there are so many actors in this movie that are ad-libbers, Jennifer Coolidge was the most the most ad-libber. They said they had the longest days with her because everything she said was like so funny and people were really into it. The shot that took the absolute longest was Dusty with the snake.
I told you about how I saw that in real life, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god, Dusty holding the snake and it poops on him, and then I'm watching YouTube and fucking Rhett and Link, the snake pooped on Rhett, and I started screaming. I was like, oh my god, it's like Gentlemen Broncos!
It's real! Yeah, they said it was a mixture of beef stew and carrot puree.
Gross.
So apparently it smelled really bad, and Jennifer Coolidge was having a really hard time standing that close to it. And so she kept, like, cracking jokes to, like, kind of elongate the like, she was having such a hard time standing still and being close to the snake and the smell, and...
Oh, God. Yeah, that's fair. My notes are, like, half just quotes that I really like. I did have... like some quote, because you did the research for this one, and so I do have like a couple.
Like you already knew.
Yeah, I knew a lot of it. The Yeast Lords, this book that Benjamin writes, The Yeast Lords, was that actually written, or was that based on like an actual story, or was a like Chevalier character based around like an actual author?
Not to my knowledge, but
Okay.
they love that like so. But Jared and Jerusha has tried to make that world work. The Yeast Lords world work. That was hard to say.
Yeasty boys.
Yeasty boys. And so they like made their own little universe to try and make the plot make sense.
Okay.
And they're like down to write a story for it sometime, which I'd love to know more
read it.
But mostly, like, in the beginning, you know, all those, like, pulp fiction-y sci-fi books?
Oh, I love pulpy sci-fi books.
Those covers, one of their, like, set people or design people went out, found over 100 covers, brought them to Jared and Jerusha, and she said every night they went through them to try and pull covers that looked kind of like the people they are giving the credit to. They do a
good job, too.
It sounded like it was mostly Jerusha who was doing that.
Yeah.
Because Jared's like, oh yeah, I think we just found some books. And like in an interview, she's like, I went through hundreds of books to try and find people that kind of looked like them.
Well, and it's such a vibe, that like era of cover art. We've been in bookstores and you've heard me ranting about like the rise of Canva book covers and like book talk, but like I love old school painted book covers. There was right by the like horror and sci-fi section in Powell's Books in Portland, they have like a whole display. It has some pithy like sign where it's like, buy it just for the cover, and it's all these old pulpy books that are like fucking garbage books. They're all like maybe $2, but you are buying it for the cover, like, because it's so great.
The covers are so amazing in that.
It's a lost art. Neil Gaiman got an entire new run. There was this artist who used to do like painted book covers, and he like had retired, and Neil Gaiman had been talking about like how much he loved that guy's art, how he wished that the guy was still like doing that, and he reached out, and Neil Gaiman actually got like a run of his books. That artist like made cover art for a bunch of Neil Gaiman's books. I just got the one for American Gods, and it's so cool looking.
Oh, I should read it. Post it.
Also related to the book covers though is like Benjamin's binder.
Yes.
That he has the like cover art for Gentlemen Broncos, like the Yeast Lords.
He has the battle stag on it.
Yeah. Were you like a writer kid? Did you like write stories and stuff?
Yeah.
I was definitely a writer kid, and I did this shit. Like I used to have like notebooks that I like fucking like Mod Podged like magazine cutouts and like did little collage covers for my stories and stuff.
I think this is where we differed. I would write stuff. I'd write stuff and I would like hide it. Or I'd put it in like normal looking journals so people wouldn't grab them. Like I just didn't write like that.
Oh,
I don't know.
I shared them with like my friends in middle school. I didn't. Like, I definitely did keep them like under my bed.
I shared them with Maggie. The end. Only person who I ever let see one story I wrote when I was like a child.
Do you want to hear the cringiest thing?
Sure.
So middle school Kaitlyn, me and my friends we called ourselves the High Vampire Society, because we were really into that Vampire Knight, that manga series.
Oh, yeah.
So
I was also really into that, but I also hid those books.
It was so... No, it's worse. It's so fucking cringe. We called ourselves the High Vampire Society. We had Japanese names that we had given ourselves.
Oof, baby.
We had a hierarchy of, like... I think I was the leader because, like, my, like, fictional father was, like, an elder vampire, and, like, we had lore for our own dumb fucking friend group,
my God.
and we would write stories, and we would share each other's stories, but this is also where the Tina Belcher vibe comes in, because, I felt so called out. You know how Tina writes erotic friend fiction?
Yeah.
We definitely wrote shit like that. Oh my God. We would write stories about, like, my friend Desi and her, like, crush, and we'd be like, and then they fell in love because she was secretly a witch, and blah, blah, blah. But it was worse because we used code names. For all of our crushes had code names, and so that way, like...
But I did that, too.
Yeah.
When I wrote about crushes, they would have a code name.
Yeah. It was embarrassing. It was really fucking... I still have them somewhere. We went to, like, you know, at Walmart, you can get, like they have the engraving machines or whatever.
Yeah.
We had dog tags that had, like, our, like, rank and our, like, Japanese name and shit.
I mean, that's a way to kill time.
I should not be allowed outside.
I mean, you made up some real lore.
Yeah, it
with
was
some friends.
Crazy.
That's wild.
But, like, that's what I love about this is, like, Benjamin, I think a big part of it is there's a very specific homeschool kid vibe where this is going to sound so awful. I'm going to get canceled for this.
Whatever.
But, like, sometimes kids need to be bullied. But it's that thing where, like, he doesn't have the shame, he doesn't have the social awareness because he's homeschooled, and so I feel like he's got that pureness to him and that innocence, and that's why it hurts so much more when he gets scammed, because he like has the energy of, like, well, why is this happening to me?
So the guy who was selected for that role...
He's the kid in Sky High.
He's the kid in Sky
Kurt Russell
High.
plays his superhero dad, and they have that weird conversation that's, like, kind of coming out as gay.
He was in a different movie that I can't remember right now. Was it like Blue Valentine or Snow Angel? It was something like that. Jared and Jerusha saw the movie and that he was in, and they're like, wow, he has this, like, genuine sweetness to him. And then they met him in person, and they're like, oh no, he's just, like, a really sweet guy, and it reads on camera and off camera. So they really wanted him for this role because he has that, like, innocent sweetness to him, which is, like, so lovely.
Well, and I loved that thing where they were talking about he had just gotten done shooting, like, some kung fu movie with, like, Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
So he's jacked, and that's why in this movie he wears, like, long sleeves. It's just like Marty in Cabin in the Woods. Like, they were like, he's too buff for this role.
Yeah.
And so he makes his posture, he, like, hunches his shoulders in, and he wears the baggy clothes, and he makes himself look so little.
He makes himself look so tiny.
The bit where he cries, and he's just, like, so sad, and I'm like, he's a little wet kitten, and he needs a hug. He needs his mom to come out.
Yeah, it's interesting because he doesn't tell his mom what's going on at any point. But he's just always there to support his mom. It's very sweet.
Oh, I know. Like, the fact that, like, the first thing he does when he gets his, like, book royalty money is he, like, puts on a fashion show for her with her designs.
Yeah.
And so cute.
It's adorable.
And then, like, when he finally snaps, it's for his mom, because she goes and that, like, Don Carlos guy is like, sleep with me and I'll put your nightgowns in every pennies across America. And that's, like, when he finally snaps, is he's like, you don't fucking disrespect my mommy!
Yep, and then he goes off.
Yeah.
I love Jermaine Clement getting beaten up. It's so funny. I guess that's, like, a running theme so far in a lot of our stuff.
Jermaine Clement getting his ass beat.
That's also what causes the emo dance for In Fly the Conchords.
Oh, yeah!
Because Jermaine breaks... Yeah. Anyway, I loved that bit. I also loved when we were watching the behind-the-scenes thing, and he took inspiration from when his wife truly fainted. And she goes,
oh, calamity.
And then she fainted. I mean, he was trying to work that in. I thought that was...
So good.
But there's a lot of little things in this that, like, Jared Hess definitely, like, took from his mother.
Mm-hmm.
So when the boat shoes thing, like where she buys him,
oh yeah,
that's a real thing that happened to Jared Hess. And like when Jennifer Coolidge holds her hand up to her eye like a scope almost, that's a real thing Jared's mom does. Jared's
Fun
mom,
fact, it does work to help your eyes. For a while, I had a weird thing where one of my eyes took longer to focus than the other, so I would do that little telescope thing. It did help. It did help.
Oh my goodness. You're just revealing so many secrets about yourself.
Listen, I like to say that I'm unknowable, but I'm not.
I am an open book.
I am, unfortunately for everyone involved, I am the most open book.
His mom also would do, like, trade shows for, like, selling nightgowns and stuff at trade shows, and so he would often have to go to those trying to get, you know, like a brand when they're trying to get their clothing in a store. They will, like, go to a trade show and try and get, like, Sears to pick them up or something, so he would go and help with that. He said it was always really hard because he didn't know anything about women's clothing, and he would also find out, like, the day before.
Yeah, that seems about right.
His mom also had her own popcorn ball company. Because what is it called in the movie?
It's Judith's Country Balls.
Oh, because Jared's mom's name is Christmas.
Oh,
Her legal name is Christmas Holiday. Her last name is Holiday. Her first name is Christmas.
Fantastic.
And so her popcorn ball company was called Christmas Country Corn.
So cool.
And he would have to sell it.
They just like, Mom, I'm not selling 2 in a sack.
Feel them, they're so firm.
They're so heavy.
Oh my god.
I love, and that's like all they eat. They like, I think the commentary pointed out that they had like a yogurt machine on their counter, so all you see them eating is the popcorn balls, and like Benji's always eating the like homemade yogurt.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so, it like plays into them like being poor, and like I just, their house is so good too, like fucking geodesic dome, baby.
Yeah, I love that house.
There's one in the foothills in like Golden that I think is so cool. Like I would absolutely live in a geodesic dome.
So bad. I want to decorate the heck out of that place.
Right?
So bad.
Speaking of the decorating, that quilt above Benjamin's bed that's Jesus on the dinosaur.
Which just adds to the canon that they're Mormon.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was my main question. My other question is more food for thought.
Okay.
Apparently I wrote it halfway through the movie, but it just says question mark. Does Chevalier fuck? What's your read on that?
I was trying to figure that out with like his version of Bronco. But my other take of his version of Bronco could be that he just needed the polar opposite, so it wasn't such a copy.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why that Bronco is so femme, but it could also be like, it sounds like his other books often have female leads, if they're harpies.
Yeah.
So maybe he just doesn't know how to write from a male perspective. So I wonder...
When you have that interaction with the fan at the signing where she's so horny for him and he just kind of...
He takes it as a compliment, but he doesn't, like, go into it.
Yeah.
He's not like, here's my room key or anything.
Right.
He's just like, he can tell that she's into him and he likes the attention.
Yeah.
But that's kind of it.
Do you think writers get a lot of tail?
I think it depends.
Yeah. Do you think Stephen King, he's kind of weird looking, but like kind of in a hot way?
I mean, he's been married his entire career.
This is true.
And let's say this. Let's just remember that Stephen King's wife pulled Carrie out of a trash can and told him it was good. And so we have her to thank for his career.
We have women to thank for fucking everything. Fucking Jaws was saved by Steven Spielberg's wife. She fucking saved that movie.
Is the message that men have fragile egos? Is that the message?
What?
Is the message men have fragile egos?
That can't possibly be true. No, I've never heard
Believe in your
like
art.
That. Yeah, honestly though, believe in your art and surround yourself with people that will support you and your art. Like, that's the theme of this movie.
Well, so one of the things that I thought was an interesting theme that I believe Jared and Drew had talked about. Oh, wait, I did have an answer for inspiration about what this was based off of. Sorry, I just saw it in my notes. The inspiration was long run.
Long Run.
Is the inspiration for Dr. Chevalier.
Do you mean Logan's Run?
Maybe. Here, say Logan's Run in a New Zealand accent.
Don't make me do this. Yeah, because Logan's Run was 76. It's about a police officer in the future uncovering a deadly secret behind a society that worships youth.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah, the other notes I have for Jermaine Clement, he talks about initially his role was supposed to be much smaller because Dr. Chevalier was 2 characters.
Oh.
And then he became 1.
Interesting.
Which I thought was interesting. And then when asked if he was a nerd, Jermaine was like, well, I really like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He's like, and one time I was in school, some kids came up to me, and they asked me if I liked Doctor Who, and he said, yeah. And then the kids went, nerd, and ran away. He's like, so I guess I'm a nerd.
I love every weird little thing I learn about his, like, childhood and, like, him growing up. Because isn't it... there was, like, an interview where him and Taika were talking about how they used to make fun of the kids that their parents were still married.
Yeah. It's just wild. My also, like, favorite quote that I got out of Jermaine in watching these interviews is someone was like, were you concerned about taking a role like this in this kind of off-the-wall movie? And Jermaine goes, I mean, what do you have to risk other than your pride? And I was like, that's kind of nice. He's like, or he, like, really made pride sound super dismissive. And I was like, that's kind of fun.
No, I do just really enjoy what he brings to this character. I love... Chevalier is full of himself, but he also does, you can see that pressure, because you have him, that phone call with his agent, where he's on the phone and he's like, wait, what did you think of my new book? And his agent's like, it's fucking terrible. Like, we can't publish this. It's garbage. And he's, like, frantically trying to, like, pitch shit just off the wall, like, and it's terrible. And that the phone call later, after he's sent in Yeast Lords, his author's like, welcome back, like, this is great, you're back to your old self. And, like, it's such an insult to him, because like, he's just like a washed out has-been almost, and he has to steal somebody else's work to get back to, like, where he was at. And I feel like that kind of ties in with, like, youth, and, like, when he was young, he still, like, believed in his art, or he was still, like, passionate, he was more authentic.
Yeah, versus the sell what you can and run method that we get from him. Yeah. Something else that Jerusha and Jared talked about, when, like, in a deeper interview, because, you know, like, some interviews are just, like, press junkets. Yeah. One where, like, they were having a more earnest conversation, they talked about how one of the ways that they truly viewed this movie, they've always been interested in how people do, like, their art process. And this movie is, like, kind of, in a way, became an examination of how people do their art process. Okay. Which you can totally see, right? Lonnie, he just makes, like, a bunch of short little videos. You can see how the mom does it. Like, you see everyone's process in making art and how...
And you see the final product, too.
Yeah, of each of their artwork.
Yeah. That's so good. I love that.
Isn't that kind of fun?
I enjoy that so much. I love this movie. Again, this is, like... My dad found this, because my dad and I really liked Napoleon Dynamite. Mm-hmm. And for a while, my dad didn't have cable, so he would just go to the library and just pick DVDs that looked interesting and take them home and watch them. And so he found Gentlemen Broncos at the library and was like, oh, because it says in big letters on the, like, DVD cover, like, from the guys who did Napoleon Dynamite. Yeah. I remember he watched it, and he checked it out from the library again the next week, because we were coming to visit that next weekend. So he watched it and then checked it out again, so that when I came out the next weekend, he was like, we have to watch this. And so now, like, it's a dad movie for me. Like, me and my dad know that movie front to back, backwards and forwards. Like, we quote it at each other all the time. Like,
I love that.
It's interesting, because, like, so much of my relationship with my dad is based around these movies that we just watch all the time. Because my mom doesn't like to watch movies over and over again. Like, she'll watch something and then, like, years later be like, oh, I remember liking that one, I should try it again. But me and my dad are like, the credits roll and we're like, put it on again. I told you I've watched this movie 3 times in the last week, because I watched it with you, and then I watched it 2 days ago with my mom, and then you and I just watched it again today. I would watch it again tomorrow.
It's a really
Except
fun
I have
movie.
to get back to watching House, because I'm on season 2.
Dang. One of the things about this movie, when it asked, like, why it didn't do so well, because a lot of people thought it was going to have the same background, or, like, the same appreciation as Napoleon Dynamite, because it's filmed kind of the same.
Yeah.
And has a really similar vibe. So this movie was picked up by Fox Searchlight. It came out during Oscar season.
Oh, okay.
And I think, like, Fox just kind of overdid itself because they had a bunch of, like, Oscar bait films that they were pushing. And they just ran out of funding for this movie for any form of promotion. So this movie had zero promotion, and it was pulled after being in theaters for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So it really wasn't in theaters for a long time, and like Jared's like, it's in an interview I heard with him, he's like, it's found its audience. It should have found its audience much sooner. He's like, but I'm going to be grateful that it found the people that it was meant to find.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like a really interesting thing. He didn't sound bitter about it at all. He was just kind of like, it's just what happens. I was able to get it out, and so I'm going to be happy about that. It found its people. Like, that's what we can appreciate. And
I feel like that's also a theme for a lot of our picks, is we end up with these movies that, like, they find the right audience. It just takes time. And I feel like that's why Hollywood doesn't take risks anymore, is like they can't stand around and wait for the right audience to find the movie. They want the money now. They need the, like...
They need their return quick.
Yeah, immediately.
Yeah, they're not going to invest in something long term.
That's why we're going to get, like, another fucking Star Wars movie.
This is the first year without a Marvel movie slated.
Oh, that's crazy.
First year in a decade,
The exhaustion.
I'm honestly so fucking relieved.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't count because it's, like, a movie, but there's, like, 8,000 fucking TV shows coming out still.
Well, they're not going to kick off the blockbuster season.
Okay.
And... Okay, do you know about the title of Gentlemen Broncos? Do you know where it came from?
Tell me.
Okay, so, once again, Jared's mom, she had this, like, child-raising book. It was, like, How to Raise a Young Boy.
Okay.
And one of the chapters is called The Gentleman Bronco Era.
Oh.
And it's about how when little boys go through their phase of where they don't want to wear their shirts and they want to pick up big things and are like, look at me, I'm a man! That's the Gentleman Bronco era of kids.
I love that.
And they just, like, loved it and ran with it. And it's so funny because, like, Jerusha thinks it's really funny, and she's like, I don't think little boys ever actually grow out of that. She's like, put any man in a field, he's gonna throw off his shirt and start screaming, you know? Versus Jared's like, I think it's, like, a really kind of silly thing. And, like, they're such a fun couple to watch.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's where that came from. And I also want to let you know what these two have been up to since.
Yeah.
So, of course, the way that it comes out, we have Napoleon Dynamite, then Nacho Libre, then Gentlemen Broncos, and then Jerusha does her own thing in Austin Land, which we love.
Wow.
And then we have Don Verdine.
Don Verdine. That one is so funny. I'm so glad you made me watch that one.
Oh, it's so fun. And then we have Masterminds. And then Jared just directed last year 95 Senses. So they really wanted to get into animation.
Okay.
And this is an animated movie. Trigger warning for death. It's about how when you die... It's really sad. The trailer makes me cry. I've watched the trailer. I watched it once and I was like, oh, this is really sad. And then I watched it like 6 months later, like knowing what I was going into, and I was like, nope, this is still super sad.
Just the trailer you watched?
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't tell what it's about, but it's like talking about how the trailer is about what senses you lose when you die, in what order.
I hate that.
And that's the trailer.
I hate that.
And I was like, this seems too much for me.
Yeah, I'm not in a mental space to face my own death and mortality.
Yeah. Okay, so the other things that they've made that are coming out this year is Thelma the Unicorn.
Oh.
Which I believe is an animated series, which is something they have talked about openly that they want to try and get their hand at animation.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that. They also are working on the Minecraft movie.
Don't do that to me.
Well, there you go. But also, the TV shows that they've worked on are Last Man on Earth.
I do like that one.
Murder Among Mormons.
Okay.
They wrote that. And they also wrote the unauthorized story of American Gladiator.
I think I watched that.
Yeah, you told me about it.
Yeah! Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yep, so these, I mean...
I fully watched that.
The thing about the Hesses is that they're kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
And people seem to genuinely like working with them. It's also really interesting that they absolutely refuse to move to Hollywood and they still have all these opportunities.
Yeah.
So I think it speaks a lot to, like, how genuine they are.
And their talent. Like, it shows that, like, they're genuine and they understand, like, what they bring to the table enough to, like, say, no, you have to meet me here. You have to meet me at my level.
Yeah, and I think as their kids get older, because there is a little bit of a gap in how quickly movies were coming out for them, I think as their kids are now kind of, like, aging out of being in the house, I think we're going to get more stuff from them.
Yeah, I can see that.
Which I am really excited to see what they could bring to, like, the modern era. I would love for them to do, like, another little indie film. I'd be so excited.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Were you just sitting on that when I told you I watched the American Gladiator show? Were you just like, we're recording an episode soon, I have a little tidbit?
You had told me, and then I was researching this, and I was like, no fucking way. But also, like, it informs, I think, a lot about who they are as people. I really appreciate the Hesses and their stuff. It always feels so refreshing, and I think because they pull from real people, it feels really genuine. Like, even, like, the littlest weird things, like the thing about the flesh pockets. Absolutely disgusting, hilarious throwaway thing about, like, one of the characters having flesh pockets. But it's because one of their kids, or, like, one of their nieces or nephews, thinks that when you go to heaven, you'll have flesh pockets.
That's right, because you won't have clothes in heaven, but you need somewhere to put your stuff.
Yeah. So he's like, you just grow pockets.
So good.
So good. And, like, I think that speaks to their mindset, too, of, like, if a 5-year-old said that to you, you'd be like, that's funny and weird.
Yeah.
And you might just, like, use it as, like, a thing to tell your friends and joke about, but, like, they put it in a script, and it's funny and weird in a way that, like, we are still talking about.
Yeah. They picked such good actors for this one, because, like, I can't see anyone but Sam Rockwell being able to play both versions of Bronco.
Right.
Like, Jermaine is so good, and I think it's because, like, both of them are the kind of comedians that play into that, like, kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Sam Rockwell's a fantastic actor.
He's incredible.
Anytime he's in anything, I get so excited.
Same.
But he does have that, like, kind of awkward vibe. Like, he's good at being, like, the weird, kind of awkward dude.
Yeah.
That also can be really serious, but and, like, funny.
And I also love that they have Jennifer Coolidge in this.
She's fantastic.
She's so fun. And also, like, this is the beginning, because, like, this is the first time Jennifer Coolidge works with Mike White, and then he brings her back for White Lotus. He, like, specifically was like, I have a role for you in White Lotus, and pulled her back. And then they've apparently been friends for a really long time, which is really sweet. But it started because they met on the set.
That's so cool.
But I also love seeing Jennifer Coolidge not being typecast. She's a really good actress, and people always, like, cast her as, like, the dumb blonde, and here she is, like, as a caring mother, and she's so good at it because she has this little undercurrent of deep, like, a love that she can give to characters.
Well, an emotion, too. Like, she's sad, but it comes from her, like, having that deep love, and she's, like, crying because they don't have money to give Benji a birthday. Yeah. But then she does anyway. That just makes me cry because, like, that's always, like, that's a thing that I've had with my mom when I was younger is, like, we would be so worried about, like, Christmas, and then she still would, like, make sure that we got a Christmas, and it's just that thing where it's just, like, this deep sense of love and, like, wanting to provide for your kids these, like, special things.
Yeah. Yeah, I also feel like that Judith, like, really steps up, even though her husband died, she's, like, putting on this brave face to give her son everything, even though he's missing a father. It's
breaking our streak of disappointing parents.
Yeah.
We came in with, like, the best mom ever.
Absolute best mom. I love her so much.
I think that's all of my questions that I had, because I don't know, like, I could talk about everything in this movie for 8,000 million bajillion years.
I also agree. I could talk about this movie for a long time. I think it's a really fun movie.
Yeah, if you haven't watched it already, which, why are you listening to this if you haven't watched it? But also, I'll forgive you. Go watch this movie. It's so fun. It's so heartfelt. It's so genuinely sweet, I think, is, like, this movie is genuine, and, like, it has a good arc. Like, Benji just, like, everything goes wrong, his life just keeps kicking him while he's down, and then he gets his happy ending, and it feels so good.
Yeah, you walk away with this movie, like, feeling like you can fight something.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, he did it! Like,
I'm gonna go hit someone with a bean pillow.
Oh my god, that bean pillow. And then another fun fact is that bean pillow is in their son's bedroom. He slept with it for years.
So
So
creepy.
it hung around. It's such a creepy pillow.
So weird. And he says it's the mini size. I want to see what the big size looks like.
It's a full body pillow.
No.
Yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I think it's really fun. And I love, truly all the actors in it, I think, are playing to their strengths. I like seeing actors not really being typecast, and I feel like, let me rephrase. It seems like because Jared and Jerusha are looking for people to bring a character to life in a genuine way that are going to be chill off-screen and on-screen, you end up seeing them work with, like, really fun, good actors. Like, a lot of people from Napoleon Dynamite, that was the only movie they did, and then they went back to living their lives, which is kind of interesting, but I think also speaks to, like, these actors who just want to make something funny and be done and are, like, just normal people. You have, Nacho Libre, which is Jack Black. We all know he's amazing. And I just feel like there's some times where you see a team get together and you're like, oh, they're good.
Yeah.
All those people are, like, nice people.
Yeah.
You could roll up and they're not going to make fun of you for being a normie.
I
You know?
love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Final quotes? Final facts?
Final quotes. Well, it's the quote that you have on your door.
Remember who you are and what you stand for. It's such a cute thing that she says whenever when he leaves. And, like, I say it to my mom, and I have a sign on the back of my door, so every time I leave my house, I see the little, like, the hand gestures. Remember who you are and what you stand for. I love when he walks in on his mom crying, and he's like, Mom, you need to calm down and stop watching yourself cry.
Okay, so Jerusha based that off of, like, she was helping comfort she said a girl who was 17, it was, like, before prom or something, and she was looking at herself in the mirror, and she thought she was ugly, so she started crying, and then she was looking at herself in the mirror and was like, oh my god, I am ugly, because she was an ugly crier, and Jerusha thought it was the funniest thing, and she's like, I used to do that when I was a teen. She's like, I would cry, and then I'd look at myself and be like, oh my god, I am ugly, and keep crying, and it was, like, this cycle of crying.
I love that.
And I love that she worked it into this of, like, just having Judah staring at herself in the mirror crying. So funny.
Also, Chevalier saying, if there's one thing I can't stand, it's plagiarism. As he's recording the audiobook for the book that he stole.
Yes. Oh, I also liked, they noted in the commentary that every character that wears a turtleneck is a villain. And I know this is, like, such a little detail that is so dumb, where once it was said, I was like, oh, I should have picked that up. But Mike White's character wears white the entire movie because he truly views himself as an angel.
The guardian angel.
The guardian angel, Dusty.
What's your final rating?
You go first.
5 out of 5.
I think
I'm not even excusing it. I'm just saying, like, I'm just
reason.
giving it a 5 out of 5. Like,
Do it.
because normally, like, for The Last of Us, I was re-listening to one of our other episodes, and I was like, well, I love it so much, and the nostalgia, so I have to factor, not this time, bitch. 5 out of 5.
I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
I
Podcast over.
Well,
again.
just, like, comparing it to your enthusiasm, my enthusiasm falls short of your enthusiasm, so I feel like it can't be a 5 out of 5.
Well, now I feel bad.
Why?
I don't know. I shouldn't.
My 5 out of 5 is Eagle vs. Shark.
That's fair.
Like, we have our own. I don't know. I really like this movie, and I like showing it to people because it is, like, a movie that flew under the radar because it had no marketing and 0 theater time.
Yeah, this is my friend test movie. I recommend this to people, and if they like it, I know that we're good friends, which is why when I asked if you had seen it, you were like, oh, I've seen it 100 times. I was like, yes!
Yeah, that was, oh, man. Jim Clement's so good in it.
So hot, too. And he's, like,
the shirtless painting scene.
Not even shirtless, like, just open, like, corduroy shirt as he's, like, painting it with the song that sounds like he's singing it, but it's like, Centaur Lover. Yeah, 5 out of 5 for me.
I'll do a 4.7.
Okay.
Does that count?
That makes me feel better.
Oh, it does? Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't know I didn't know we could quarter it like that.
You don't have to.
No, I like it. That's where I want to be then. I think it's a very fun movie.
I think my final quote is, may the glistening chrome of the Borg Queen shine its light upon us.
And then you go do the bow.
It's a weird little hand gesture. But yeah, so that's Gentlemen Broncos. Next week is Galaxy Quest.
Woo, I love this movie. I love Galaxy Quest.
So I picked that one as my movie because I wanted to challenge myself to do real research because I feel the panic. Like, people love Galaxy Quest and know so much about it that I was like, I have to do real research. I can't just do the trivia section of IMDb and Wikipedia page.
I have to say, doing research for Gentlemen Broncos was really hard. I don't know what happened, but, like, some of the stuff I remember seeing just a few years ago when I first discovered the movie is not on YouTube anymore.
Oh, weird.
Like, a lot of the more formal press check and stuff has been taken down.
Huh.
Which is frustrating.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating. This movie has, like, really been forgotten by the internet.
That's so weird.
When it comes to that. So it'll be interesting to have Galaxy Quest, which has, like, heaps of lore to it, right? Where there's some, like, I felt like I found the end of YouTube. Like, that's, like, where I was going here. Well, but there just isn't, like, really, it's hard to find interviews with Jared and Jerusha Hess. It really, well, with Jerusha, I've never seen an individual interview with Jerusha concerning a movie she's made with Jared.
Interesting.
I've seen one individual interview, as in she was on the stage with a bunch of actors for Austin Land.
Okay. Huh.
Weird, right? Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, so that's Gentlemen Broncos again.
G1.
G2 next week. G2 baby.
Follow us on Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe and give us a like or leave a comment if there's something we should be doing better.
Yeah. Constructive criticism or also just compliments. Tell me how much you like me. So yeah, come back next week for Galaxy Quest. Mm-hmm. Go watch it or don't. I'm not your dad.
You don't mean it.
I don't mean it. This time I am your dad.
Caitlin says go watch it.
I say go watch it!
It is really, I think it is a weirdly culturally important movie.
It is. I have it, yeah.
Yeah. So, you should watch it.
Please watch it.
Please watch Galaxy Quest to better yourself as a rounded human individual.
Okay. Bye.